Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Since it's the month of February and it's all about love, I wanted us to do some self-love exercises, some self-love conversations. This month is the month that a lot of single women dread, and I'm pretty sure single men too. Men also have a yearn for love, or feel wanted, or feel enough. For me, I was so focused on the perception of love. I was so focused on somebody else loving me, somebody else taking care of me, that I forgot to take care of myself. The self-love is so important because then you know what you're asking for. You know what you're worth. You know your value. For me, I know my issue wasn't so much self-love. My issue was more asking for what I deserve. But I guess it does play a part in self-love, because when you're sure about yourself and you're sure about who you are and what you deserve, you're not afraid to put it out on the table. I'm still working on that. Okay. Back to self-love. Self-love is something that I thought I knew what it was. I thought you don't fall pregnant out of wedlock. You don't do certain things as a woman or as a man, or whatever society you come from. There's a certain way you have to behave. Discipline and self-love is not the same thing. I had to learn that the hard way. Just because I was an obedient person at a certain time frame in my life, that doesn't mean that I had self-love. And that's the mistake that I made with self-love. I thought obedience went with self-love, but obedience not to myself, obedience to what I was told to do. I was so focused on being obedient and being the good child, or trying to be the good child, or trying to make people around me happy, that I forgot about my own needs, what I even like, what I even deserve. Not what my society or the environment I came from told me how a woman was supposed to behave, or what a woman was supposed to have, or what's enough for me without even knowing me. Let me give you guys a little bit of insight. I don't want to confuse y'all and be all over the place with this self-love. This is the month of love. I want to be transparent. I want to be open. I want to be giving about myself. I want to put it out there, not just for me, but for other girls or guys that come from my society, or come from societies like me, that know that it's okay to think for yourself. It's okay to have your own visions. It's okay to have your own direction in life. And it's okay to learn to know what you like and what you want. It's not going to always be the standards of other people's perceptions or expectations. That's why self-love is so important. Like, people always say, yes, yes, I love myself. Yes, yes, this, yes, yes, that. But how can you love yourself if you're not getting to know yourself? And that was my mistake. I grew up in South Africa. I'm sure I've told you guys. I grew up, my mom is Christian, my dad is Muslim, my dad is really staunch, my mom is Christian. I grew up knowing about different religions. I grew up knowing about freedom. I grew up learning about wearing your hijab and being modest and praying 5 times a day, all that good stuff. And those things are all good, they're amazing. That's why I said that's being disciplined, that's obedience. And then with my mom, I got to experience life. I got to learn what it was not to wear a scarf. I got to learn what it was not to play the whole role as a woman. So I have a brother who's like a year younger and a few months younger than me, like a year and a few months younger than me. We grew up with my dad, and my dad's household was different, whereby I had to cover my head, I had to wash dishes. But then when I went to my mom's house, it was a unisex house where men and women do the same thing, compared to my dad, where women are in the kitchen and, you know, men aren't. So little old me, as young as I was, would go to my mom's house, see a different lifestyle, go back to my dad, see a different life, and I started asking questions. I was very, very inquisitive. Growing up in different households has its advantages. It taught me that there's so much more compared to if my parents were still married and just learning one lifestyle. I would have never thought there was better out there, or want better for myself. But growing up in that kind of environment made me, at that time, made me not want to learn about myself, made me not want to explore my thoughts or my ideas or myself. I just knew there were rules, there were things that I had to learn. There was things that I had to abide by. It was just obedience. I had no time to check in. I had no time to get into my emotions. I had no time. Don't get me wrong, I was still feeling, I was still going, but I'm fighting the sensitivity. I'm fighting the questions and the inquisitiveness about me asking questions. Yes, I was that 5-year-old talking about different dimensions, but I didn't even know what it was. I didn't get a chance to explore my creativeness. I didn't get a chance to explore all these things because I had to abide by all these rules. So when I was abiding by all these rules, I didn't really learn what self-love was. I brought up my upbringing so you guys could understand a little bit more about me and my difficulty now that I'm older with self-love. I had this perception that being obedient and following all these rules, the perfect person in my society that I grew up in, trying to live up to these standards, I thought that was me loving myself, taking care of myself, because following all these rules would mean that I love God, and if I love God, I love myself. Give you guys a little bit snippet of my book that I'm writing. It's a self-love book. Well, it's more of my identity with self-love. I thought this would be perfect so you guys could understand me. I write my book in my notes section whenever I'm going through something. It's kind of very sensitive for me to be talking about it, but I feel like this is a chapter that I need to be transparent, or page that I need to be transparent about. Giving myself the attention I deserve for the first time in my whole damn life. Don't get me wrong, I was always into self-help books and mental exercises, but once things weren't good, I coasted. I never really worked on loving myself before because I believed I did. I always tried to slow down my thought process with meditation and mental exercises. Felt like my brain was always moving at 59 seconds per minute. 90% of those thoughts definitely were anxiety. I couldn't stop thinking of the past, thinking of the future, thinking of what could go wrong, what I could have changed or what I could have done differently. Did I give myself the attention I was giving everyone around me? Hell no. I was with myself all the time. Why would I think to check in on myself? No, that's not how self-love goes. Mother always told me you have to love yourself, but I thought not getting pregnant out of wedlock was loving myself. Not allowing a man to use me was loving myself. Little did I know it was deeper than that. How I spoke to myself when things went wrong played a vital role in what I believed about myself. Did I really think this about myself, or was it just my insecurities? That's just a snippet so you guys can understand my complex relationship with self-love and the idea of what I thought self-love was. How I spoke to myself. I never paid attention to that. I was more focused on how people thought of me and how people treated me. And I thought that was the line with my self-love, and that's why I forgot about myself and was so focused on the idea of who I should be rather of who I really am. One of the self-love exercises that I really started this week is to acknowledge myself. Every day I write 5 things that I acknowledge about myself. So today I acknowledge that I am talkative. I know it sounds cliche, like, no, you don't look talkative, but I am talkative, and it's been something that I've shunned away as a kid. And I realized, like, I remembered all my school reports to be like, oh, Czernaaz is super smart, but she's so talkative. And being in therapy has helped me to find that again and sit with that part of me again, instead of shunning away, scared that somebody's gonna be like, oh my gosh, you talk too much, oh my gosh, you're too loud, stop talking. I think I heard that so much when I was younger that I actually became quiet when I got older. The second one, I know might sound weird that I have to acknowledge, but I have to acknowledge that I am beautiful. It's something that I didn't acknowledge for a long time. It's something that I can say messed me up, because when I was younger I wasn't really allowed, not that I wasn't allowed to look in the mirror, but looking in the mirror, I used to get into trouble for looking in the mirror. I never really connected with my pretty side or my beautiful side until I got older. I acknowledge that I'm mystical. I chose the word mystical because I felt like there's really no other way to say it than say, oh, spiritual, or into different dimensions, or I'm into, or I believe in aliens, or I believe in other realms. I felt like most mystical will just explain it, that I am a mystical being, I'm a mystical soul. I understand there's more knowledge out there, so I'm open, so I'm mystical. And for a long time I was very afraid of, not I was afraid, I couldn't acknowledge that because people around me weren't talking about these conversations. They weren't as mystical, or I just didn't know anybody talking about it like people do nowadays. I acknowledge that I have huge gums. My gums have been my insecurity for a long time. When I was younger, there was this show called Gummy Bears. I don't know if you guys remember. It was a cartoon called Gummy Bears, jumping here and jumping everywhere, whatever. I don't even remember the theme song. Back then I had really huge gums and my teeth were coming out, and I had more gums than teeth. And I was probably grade 1 or grade 2, but I know it went through my whole primary, where they used to, literally kids used to sing that song when I used to come because of my gums. So that's made me very insecure with smiling, I guess. So I've acknowledged that I do have big gums, and I am not going to change that unless it's a medical issue that I really have to change. But I'm not going to change it because of how other people think I should look. And the third one I chose was I acknowledge I have a soft heart. I know it's weird. Acknowledge I have a soft heart. It's supposed to be like a pro thing. Well, I've done some pro stuff, but it's supposed to be like a really good thing to have a soft heart. But for me, it has worked in my disadvantage. It hasn't been the best thing for me. Why I have to acknowledge I have a soft heart, because I think I need to stop wearing my heart on my sleeves. And I can't change that. I am a hopeless romantic. I love hard. I love everybody, even if they're not related to me. I think of humanity as my family, so it's hard for me not to accept the softness in me, or the sensitive in me. So I'm acknowledging it, I'm sitting in it, because I've tried my whole life to pretend. I had to acknowledge that I'm a sensitive, soft, mystical, badass soul. I want to do it for the month of Feb, and I hope you guys do it with me. If you have a journal, keep your journal next to your bedside. So the first thing you do before you get out your bed and get on your phone, just pick up your journal and write 5 things about yourself that you're going to acknowledge every day for the month of February. Monday through Friday, before you even start anything. If you want to do it every day, 7 days, do it every day, 7 days. And even if you're repeating these things in the upcoming weeks until you believe it, you believe that you're enough. If you can accept you, any person that comes into your life is just going to be the cherry on top. Because even if they don't accept you and they walk away, you still know who you are. But when you meet these people who are going to find these flaws in you, it's going to be a flaw, or it's going to trigger you as a flaw because you haven't accepted it. Doing this sounds so small, but it's huge. It's a huge thing in your self-love exercise. It's a huge thing with your self-esteem. Self-esteem, self-confidence, all of that goes with self-love. And acknowledging all the things within yourself that other people may not think is perfect or may not like about you. You don't have to change it because of other people. Look at the things that you need to change because you have an issue with it, and see that how changing those things is going to benefit you, rather than looking to change it because other people have an issue. Because if you're going to be changing things for other people, you're going to be changing your whole body, your whole mindset. You have to see what works within yourself to know what you like and what you don't like. And that's why I started with getting to know yourself and having time for yourself, and solitude and isolation. Okay, maybe not isolation. I don't want y'all to become like me, a hermit. But take some time out, get to know yourself, take yourself on a date, see what you like about yourself. If somebody else had to date you, you know what, that I am the table. Instead of them bringing you to the table, you are the table. They'll be like, what do you have to bring to the table? I am the table. We're going to write 5 things about ourselves every morning, what you acknowledge about yourself. Even the things you love about yourself, you hate about yourself, the things that people point out to you, write it down, look at it from the outside and see it, and just acknowledge it, that this is what makes you you. So with that being said, just spread love this month. No matter what you're doing, just focus on loving yourself a little bit more and sharing that love to your extended energies around you, because that's so important. And if you aren't able to love a little harder this month, that's okay too. Just work on being the better version of yourself, one day at a time. Please like, subscribe, share, and all that good stuff. Thank you guys for joining me.